If I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. Those are the words of Emma Goldman, anarchist, women's equality activist, workers' rights advocate, and someone you may have wanted to steer clear of if you didn't believe in equality for all. She also happens to be Dr. P's favorite historical feminist. Emma Goldman was raised in St. Petersburg, Russia in the 1880s, a place where secret police were around every corner, waiting to smash the budding of anyone's dissent of the government, long before the secret police there became known as the KGB in 1954. Unfortunately for them, Goldman was not intimidated by secret police, or at least did not let it affect her opinions or actions in the slightest. Goldman supported Russian revolutionaries set on dethroning a tight-fisted dictatorship and establishing a society of true equality. While this did not happen, it was a foreshadowing of her courage, spirit, and grand vision. It was only a year after her immigration to the U.S. when a group of union workers was tried and executed for the bombing of Haymarket Square in Chicago. Solid evidence later exonerated completely those who were executed, but the damage was done. The Haymarket martyrs, as they came to be known, were dead and buried. In quite a dry response to this miscarriage of justice, Goldman said that the United States, quote, had proved most disappointing, end quote. New York, 1889. After Goldman's move to the United States, she met with a man named Alexander Berkman, and to say they became best friends would be an understatement. Both mutually admired the other, and their dedication to one another was unbreakable. So, in 1892, Goldman actually joined Berkman in his attempt to murder a steel tycoon by the name of Henry Clay Frick. Frick was targeted for his merciless treatment of his workers, particularly during the Homestead Steel Strike, but the attempt on his life was unsuccessful. Historians seem to agree that Goldman did not understand the difference between assassinations in Russia as compared to the US and its citizens, the latter of which bristled at the idea of someone in power being murdered, no matter how evil. Nevertheless, Leon Czolgosz, the man who assassinated President McKinley in 1901, was an avid follower of Goldman's and credited her with his inspiration. Goldman defended Czolgosz, saying, quote, "As an anarchist, I'm opposed to violence, but if the people want to do away with assassins, they must do away with the conditions which produce murderers," end quote. Goldman went on to befriend some of the most influential counterculture people in the U.S. According to PBS.org, she had very close ties with Sinclair Lewis, Theodore Dreiser, Henry Miller, Lincoln Steffens, Eugene Debs, Big Bill Haywood, the latter two men leading the Industrial Workers of the World Union, Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, Margaret Sanger, Eugene O'Neill, and Jack London, among others. For 11 years, Goldman would publish a magazine called Mother Earth, in which her aim was to, quote, voice without fear every unpopular cause, end quote. It was this kind of voice that got her in legal trouble, and, along with her confidant Berkman, she spent 2 years in prison for opposing the military draft during the Red Scare. Upon release, both Goldman and Berkman were deported back to Russia. Goldman penned several articles to the New York World newspaper, discussing her horror at the political condition of her home of Russia. But their stay there was short-lived, and they both moved to France, where they continued their fight for the underrepresented of the world. The final fight for Goldman was the support of an insurrection against the tyrannical dictator of Spain, General Franco. Goldman visited Spain 3 times to act as a publicist and fundraiser for peasants in Spain who wished to establish an anarchist government and to overthrow Franco. Like most of Goldman's other causes, this too failed, and General Franco stayed in power for decades. But Goldman's influence cannot be measured by the success or failure of her agenda. Emma Goldman was a fighter, showing the world what it meant to dedicate oneself to the pursuit of justice around the world, despite the hardships that may come. Goldman did not choose easy battles. Her ambition for global equality was limitless and awesome in magnitude. In the spirit of Goldman's worldview, I leave you with another of her quotes from her writing, Anarchism and Other Essays. Quote, "Ask for work. If they don't give you work, ask for bread. If they don't give you work or bread, then take the bread," end quote. Thank you to PBS.org, Jewish Women's Archive, Goodreads.com, and Britannica.com for content assistance in this podcast.